almost $500 million. And right now, so far, the investment totals to close to $75 million. And by the end, it will be one of the biggest housing projects in East Africa with over 2,750 units. Amazing stuff. All this is available to each and every single one of you, no matter what your taste, whether you like townhouses, whether you like villas, whether you like bungalows, whether you like apartments. It's going to be a full docket. We'll have commercial spaces, schools, hospitals, leisure and commercial centers, a police and fire station, places of worship, 4 parks, street lighting. This is exactly what you've been talking about. We're bringing what they call lifestyle living to Uganda, all courtesy of National Social Security Fund. Ladies and gentlemen, His Excellency has finished walking through the show house. We're going to proceed now. Omat Band, are you on standby? We're going to have the national anthem and the East African anthem. Ladies and gentlemen, can we kindly be upstanding for the national anthem and the East African anthem, followed by a prayer. The head of corporate affairs and communication at NSSF Uganda, to come and give us a word of prayer.
Your Excellency, you're very welcome. Honorable Ministers, you're most welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, in your respective capacities, let's humble ourselves for a word of prayer. Loving Father, we just want to say thank you so much. Thank you for today. May you bless this day and bless the work of our hands. In Jesus' name we have prayed. Amen.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, you may take your seats. Your Excellency the President, Honorable Ministers, Honorable Members of Parliament, distinguished guests, CEOs, captains of industry, guests, welcome to each and every single one of you. Your Excellency, my name is Dr. Ronnie Mechegwang, and I'd like to say what an honor it is to stand here on behalf of the board of NSSF Uganda to welcome you to Solana Lifestyle and Residences. Your Excellency, this is tantamount to peace and security for all these decades. And that now we have the opportunity to build one of the biggest housing complexes in East Africa. Your Excellency, the numbers here are amazing. This project will sit on over 600 acres. It will be finished in the next 10 years. It will have close to 2,750 units, Your Excellency. What you saw there was what you call a bungalow. We have villas, we have townhouses. Behind us, we also have apartments. But Your Excellency, to tell us more about this vision and where we came from and the direction we're heading, it's my great pleasure to call upon the Managing Director of National Social Security Fund Uganda, Mr. Richard Gerugaba. Let's give him a big round of applause.
With your permission, Your Excellency, I will remove my mask since I'm so far from everybody. Your Excellency, I'm very bad at protocol, but let me start off by recognizing the honorable ministers that are here, the captains of industry, my board members, colleagues from the office, and the journalists and ladies and gentlemen. We also have a few senior citizens here. The wife of our former president, Miria Obote, is here, and the wife of our former head of the commission of the military, Mrs. Mwanga, is also here. So we've got some really interesting guests around. But Your Excellency, it gives us a great pleasure to be able to do what I believe is one of the most exciting projects in this country. Given this opportunity, one would have thought that the best thing to do is to begin to thumb chest and actually say what a great job we've done. But I felt that today I would try and communicate a message, which is a message of hope, a message of so much work to be done, and a message of reshaping the future of housing. I believe that what we have here is the answer to all the problems that this country has ever had with regard to housing. Please pay attention to the screen that's near you, because there are some very interesting numbers. One of the things that today we see is that the population of Uganda, since 1986, the migration from the rural areas to the urban areas has been more than 10 times. In 1986, the population in the urban areas was only 1.3 million people. Today there is about 13 million people. The graph that's more interesting is not the increase as a total of the population, but it is the annual growth. You'll see that there was a significant increase towards the 90s. That number has flattened, but towards 2015, those numbers have begun to go up, which really is around the march to the value that over 50% of Ugandans by 2050 will actually be living in cities. This is a big deal, because that means that by the year 2050, there will be about 35 million people living in cities in and around Uganda. As you can see, those graphs, they show that there is that increase that we've seen for a long time, where the people are changing from the rural areas where they have been doing a lot of the agriculture, but coming into the cities to be able to participate in the development of the city. And that can be shown by why this movement. 60% of the movement has been around rural migration, rural to urban migration. But the other factor that's quite important that we haven't noticed is the population that comes from the refugees. If you drive around town, you'll see that there's a lot of refugees who have settled in Kampala from Sudan, from Eritrea, Ethiopia, and a couple of the other neighboring countries, DRC inclusive. The other factor that we've also seen is industrialization. Industrialization, which has been a very good example of creating jobs for the youth and the Uganda citizens. We've begun to see cities that are developing around the big cities, so what I would like to call secondary cities. So if you are traveling on the Jinja Road, you'll see a place like Mbalala, where a lot of industries have gone, and people are now shifting from the villages to come there. But I think the biggest statistic on that particular slide is the jump in the share of GDP created by the cities. By 2005, we had only 19% of cities contributing to the GDP. That number has has increased tremendously to 43%. That means that there is a lot of wealth being created, and we believe that that is the only way that the country will be able to develop. Which brings me to the implications. The implications is that if a half of the population will be Ahmadized by the year 2050, it means that their economic trajectory is very important, but then housing becomes an integral part of developing our nation. That's why we believe that the matter of housing should really be paid attention to. This is a little bit of a busy slide, Your Excellency, and the other colleagues that are around. But let me try and explain. Today, how is the demand for the people who come out of our villages, how are they being settled? 90% of them are being settled in informal settlements, what I would kindly call slums. The other area is ad hoc occupation in already built up areas. The challenge with that is that it does not contribute to the economic development. In fact, there is a very limited impact on the economy, because for every 10 shillings that are spent in informal housing, only 1 shilling impacts the other parts of the economy. Which means that we now need to find another way of housing our people. So we have building of new houses in land without secure tenures. That's what many of the people in Kampala do. They get a little piece of land outside of Kampala or towards outside of Kampala. They try to build a house step by step. Unfortunately, it takes so long, and unfortunately, there is a lot of problems with the tenures of that. We believe that the solution really lies in formal housing, the development that you are about to unveil today. And we believe that that will provide a huge untapped multiplier impact. And let me show you and give you the evidence. Solana, which is a formal development, will have a huge multiplier impact. It already has. Let me share with you the numbers. This project that you've just seen, which is only phase 1, it is over only 60 acres of land, of which there are 600 of them. We have spent $73.3 million. We have been able to employ directly over 1,500, of which 95% of those have been Ugandans. And we have also been able to give jobs indirectly, 3,200. But what's even more interesting about this project is the amount of money we spent on infrastructure. When you came here, Your Excellency, you drove on tarmac roads. We've been able to tarmac all the roads in the project. We've been able to do all the water storm area. We've been able to do everything that a home, a village, a town, a city must have. But the other part that we've also been able to do is that we've given the contracts to Ugandan businesses. $31 million of the $73.3 million were paid to Ugandan businesses, which represents 42% of the amount of payments. The foreign component only included the items that we had to import, things like we use for finishing, things like sanitary ware, things that are not made in huge bulk in this country. But we are assuring you, Your Excellency, that we are beginning to find suppliers who are doing it here. We've got Kapeka doing tiles, and we've got some of the other big companies that are beginning to provide material. Things like cables, we no longer import those. We are using our own Ugandan-made cables and that sort of thing. And that shift we can see in the projects that we've been doing. Your Excellency, what are the value that we're getting out of this? Of course, we've got roads, we've got the internet. Every single property in here, 300 of them will have internet. We've been able to put in power. We did not use any of the facilities that Umeme had put there. We have brought in our own water. We've got our own sewage treatment plant. We've been able to organize security. We are going to build schools. We are going to build recreation areas. There will be a gym and a hospital. There will be a police station. There will be a fire station as well. And we are also providing a diverse range of housing, which includes apartments, bungalows, studio houses, and townhouses. We've done this project, but there are a couple of challenges which I'd like to share with you, Your Excellency, because I think it's so important that you understand that although we've done this, we went through some challenges, and I'll briefly summarize them. I didn't want to complain a lot, but Your Excellency, there are some challenges, and this, I believe, is a story of triumph against adversity, because this, as you've seen today, we've had to do quite a lot, as you will see on the timeline. So the timeline is that in 2012, we had the master plan completed. You are going to see the whole master plan. I did show it to you when we were up there. We completed it in 2012, but we couldn't start the project until 2018. So there was 6 years of opportunity cost, which we missed out. We acquired this land in 2003, 600 acres. We acquired them in phases. But then, what did we get? We got the first disruption from title ownership. We had the Balangila complaining that this used to be their land. It belonged to King Chua, or whoever it was. And we dealt with it, but unfortunately it did disrupt us. We have been fighting fraud. There are so many people who are turning up. All right, could you please put on your masks? Everyone, please. Please put on your masks. Including me. All right, so we had so much fraud on the land, forged titles, attempting to pass them off as their own, wanting to sell them to us, and we've actually been able to arrest some people. The other area that we've suffered is in securing the land. Every single piece of our land in this area has been marked. The boundaries are marked, but that takes us a long time. We have a full-time security presence on these premises, all around. When we went into the procurement area, there was a lot of chaos. Administrative reviews, we had whistleblowers, and we had huge fights among the bidders. And we believe that we have also had to deal with the problem of infrastructure. As you saw, Your Excellency, the land on the other side, which is not yet developed, there are no roads, we don't have any water there, there is no power, we don't have internet, we don't have sewage. So if we are going to do all that, we need to do the infrastructure. What did we do for the procurement? We learned one thing, that procurement, people fight for it because a lot of the companies are looking at just a few projects. So what we did is that we divided it into lots. We created 4 lots, one to do the bungalows, one to do the apartments, one to do townhouses and villas, and one to do the main infrastructure. That way we had a lot of peace, and we've been able to come up with all these products available for our customers. The question is, where do we go from here? Your Excellency, this project is only 10% of the land that we have. So there's so much work we can do to really bring this whole area into a good living space. We have already been recognized by international organizations. We've received 3 awards, the 5-star award for Africa and Arab properties. We've received the best mixed use development in Uganda. And we were the first company in the whole of Eastern Africa to get a green mark, which is a certification to show that we are using the environment and not abusing it. We think that we can accelerate the development of the economy through housing. And this Solana is a good example. I have listed the things that we sourced out of Uganda. You'll see that all the concrete, the sand, the cement, the timber, the roofing, the structures, the road pavers, the retaining walls, the fabricated steelworks, timber, and also the paint were all procured here. So we believe that this would be a big multiplier on the economy. Your Excellency, I would like you to pay attention to this number or the graph that is there. We currently have 17.2 trillion shillings that we manage. Real estate is only 7% of our portfolio. Your Excellency, see what only 7% of our fund can do. And this is only just one of our projects, because as you will see, we have other projects that we are undertaking throughout Uganda. So we think that we can leverage on our balance sheet in order to develop a really good economic growth model for this country. There are two problems that I would like to pay attention to, and Your Excellency, you recall when I met you a couple of years ago, before COVID, I mentioned that one of the biggest problems of the economy is around the financing. There are three buckets of finance that are available for economic development and creating economic development in the country. One is what you would call the short-term funds, which are provided by commercial banks. There is only 31 trillion shillings in that bucket. There is the medium-term bucket, which is largely dominated by Uganda Development Bank, and there's only 1.1 trillion shillings. And then you look at the long term, where pensions such as ourselves and insurance companies play. And there's only about 17 trillion shillings. Now you can see that if the economy continues to put all the money into short-term investments such as commercial banks, the mortgage prices will continue to remain expensive. We believe that if we were able to grow the medium-term and the long-term funds, the government itself will be able to afford long-term financing, but also the economy would be able to go up, and borrowers will be able to get really access to mortgages. Because we believe that one of the things that constrains the housing market is the fact that there is no mortgage market that is mature in this country. The second problem is around housing or the real estate market structure itself. Because of the high rate of urbanization, people coming into towns, there is a high demand for houses. Unfortunately, the developers lack credit and money to be able to do that. What does that mean? It means that now a lot of people are beginning to fragment the land, but also they are identifying plots further out of Kampala to be able to build there. These places don't have infrastructure, so the infrastructure ends up being very expensive, and therefore to build a house and complete it, the cost is very high. Which then means that we will have lower mortgage penetration, we'll have lower effective demand, and there will be high rent, and therefore an increase in slums. But let's go to the right of that slide and see the bigger problem that there is. The value of mortgages in this country is only 28 trillion shillings. Guess what? 97% is given to developers, which means that Mwananchi, Ugandans, only have mortgages of 3%, only 3% of them. Which means that there is a huge mismatch between the people who are developing and the people who are buying. And that's why units that are created every year are only 800. But the demand is about 180,000 per year. So there is a huge problem with the structure of financing. There is a huge problem even with the structure of the real estate market. Your Excellency, I would like to summarize all these into one slide. There is a problem with the demand side. There is a problem with the supply side. Demand side is obviously the people who buy, and supply side is people who develop. So what are the problems or the bottlenecks? There are only 13,000 mortgages. The diaspora market is not untapped, and there is a limited long-term savings. On the supply side, the infrastructure, when we build, like we've built, 20% of what we've invested will go towards infrastructure because of the fact that there isn't any. There is a lot of red tape to start projects, especially with the regulators, people like NEMA, people like the city authorities, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, VAT, if you are building for housing, it is high, and therefore limited credit. We believe that there are solutions. Some of these solutions I will summarize when I get to the very end of this presentation. Some of those solutions we can provide as NSSF, but some of these solutions have to be provided by government. So on the demand side, we need to set up a mortgage refinance bank. I'll explain this a little bit later. We need to grow our membership, certainly so that we can get more savings and therefore invest. We believe that we can implement a digital marketplace to connect buyers with the developers. That, as you will see, is one of the things we will be offering to the market. On the supply side, we believe that there is now a need for tax rebates for developers who are developing more than 100 units, so that that can be used to offset the infrastructure costs. Because ordinarily, that should be the work of government. However, it's not, the departments are not providing it. There is also a need maybe to look at the VAT, especially on residential housing. And then we need to have some statutory waivers for people like NEMA, because NEMA is trying to protect the environment. But we've demonstrated, certainly ourselves, that we are actually good at protecting the environment. And the things that we do, we believe that are good for the environment. For example, if you look at this project, all the area that is down in the low-lying areas, we are going to turn that into recreation. It will be, we are going to create an artificial lake. We are going to try and recreate a river that used to run along the ridges of this area. And we believe that will be good for the environment. So for people who are good with the environment, who've got a good track record, such as NSSF, we believe that those waivers can be provided, rather than the carte blanche that has been provided by NEMA. Your Excellency, I would like to end with the solutions. I'll start off with our own solutions. I believe that we are here to offer, and NSSF, I think, is the best kept secret in Uganda, because we will provide you with organized development. We currently are 30% on the Temangal housing project. We've already got a plan for Nsimbe. Chanja is a housing project which is about 60% done. Upcountry, we've already built Mbarara City House. We've built Jinja City House. We are in the process of building Mbale City House, and we've already acquired land to build Gulu City House in Gulu Town, or in Gulu City. With regard to the long term, the law was changed, and we can assure you that we're going to increase the money that we have available for investing through bringing on board all Ugandans so that they can begin saving. And we think that if we bring in all this liquidity, it will contribute to the lowering of credit in the banks. The third area we are offering to bring is bringing down the cost of development. We have undertaken what we are calling the off-taker model. What is this? This is where the fund takes away the market risk and the pre-qualification risk, and we provide guarantees so that the person who develops will buy all their product from them and then on-sell it. But that means that people who are now developing will be confident to be able to develop so that we can bring down the cost of financing of these projects, because now they have a ready market and we've given them a guarantee which they can take to a bank, and the bank will be able to lend them money so that they can develop for us. The other area that we are working with is on the digitization of the marketplace through innovation. Your Excellency, the properties you see here today, we are going to sell them through what we are calling a rent-to-own model. What does that mean? It means that you make a down payment of, say, 10-20% on the property. You enter the house and you begin to pay rent. Once you've paid enough rent, that property becomes yours. So you do not need to find all the money to be able to buy the property. And we are doing that to help us on the demand side, because we know that a lot of people do not qualify to get mortgages, and therefore we are going to make this an electronic data marketplace for being able to sell and buy properties. The last area, Your Excellency, which I hope should excite you, is that we have begun talking to government to support them in their public-private partnerships. The project we've started with is the Uganda Police. Uganda Police has a lot of land, but Uganda Police needs a lot of facilities, especially the forensic lab. We are in discussions with them, and the way the transaction would work is that they would give us or sell us the land at a price, say 10 shillings, and then we would build for them the lab for 10 shillings, and that would be a fair deal. And we are looking at other government institutions to be able to participate in public-private partnerships. Your Excellency, that's Uganda's best kept secret. That's what we are offering the market. So what is it, Your Excellency, we would like here to ask you on behalf of government? Again, there are 5 things. The first thing is around the infrastructure burden. I alluded to it. We believe that tax rebates will go a long way in reducing the housing costs. I mentioned to you that 20% of the phase 1 project has been invested in infrastructure. We believe that an incentive plan structured around tax rebates for major developers whose infrastructure burden is there, especially in the organized, should have at least a 15% rebate provided on the tax bill. The second area is around the regulatory bottlenecks that I alluded to earlier on. The NEMA certification for this lower project has been challenging. This has created for us a high opportunity cost by deferring the investment, resulting in a delay in the benefits from this project. We believe that a statutory waiver to the fund, we have demonstrated a commitment to be green and responsible and to provide sustainable development practices. We think that is in order. The third area is really around land wrangles. If you look at the papers over the last number of days, a lot of people are trying to get into our land and take it over. The fund projects are necessarily delayed because of these fraudsters and opportunists who are looking to profit by manipulating both the judicial system and the land tenure systems. We think that government should put in place punitive measures which should be implemented so that claimants who waste the court's time and the fund's time should really pay for it. The second last area that I believe government can help us is on the VAT burden. I already alluded to that. As you can see, because residential development such as Solana is a non-recoverable VAT cost, it means that commercial developments, which fortunately have a VAT waiver, such as the one we are doing on pension towers, it means that if we were to give the same benefit to people who are developing residential property, that VAT would be a big impact. So a waiver or a reduction in the VAT burden would mean that we can now invest more in these communities, which we believe are a multiplier effect and be credible for us at NSSF. Finally, it is around house affordability. Your Excellency, I have given you a couple of statistics. One last statistic. In 2020, a formal house constructed newly, low-cost housing, the best price was around 48 million shillings. As you can see, this is out of reach for the ordinary Ugandan. We believe that the only way we can promote home ownership is by government creating what we are calling a Uganda mortgage refinance company. Let me explain what a mortgage finance company does. You've got the commercial banks, which do retail banking. And you've got the customers who come into a commercial bank to look for a mortgage. The challenge is that when they come to a commercial bank, they don't have they don't have collateral or even money to pay down. But the banks also do not have liquidity to be able to finance that investment in a mortgage. Why? Because when you borrow a mortgage, you borrow for 20 years, 30 years. The banks, as you saw them, 31 trillion of that, it's all in current account. To give you money for a mortgage, they would be taking a risk because they are using short-term funds to invest in a long-term investment. So what other governments have done, and I believe that the World Bank has been working with Uganda, but it's taken quite a bit of time, is to create what they call a mortgage refinance company. What does it do? It basically gets money wherever it can, and then it lends them onto the commercial banks. But what the commercial banks do is that because they have now the collateral of the mortgages, they give those to the refinance company, and that works as a mortgage, as a security, so that they can then now go and issue out more bonds to be able to raise more money and fuel the mortgage market so that we do not rely on short-term funds from commercial banks. Your Excellency, I think if that is really, really done, then the issue of demand, the issue of supply will really be sorted out. I am finished, but before I finish, I'd like to thank a few people. I'd like to thank my line ministries who are here, the Minister of Finance and the Minister of Gender, Labor and Social Development. I would like to specifically thank my past chairman, unfortunately he's deceased, Mr. Chayonka, because he is the board that started this project. I recall we had a meeting not so far from here at which the master plan was approved, and then we began the work. But I currently also would like to thank my current board for being able to support me. I would like to thank the management of the fund who are here. I'd like to thank the contractors. There are 4 of them: XPCC, CRJ, Siani, and Cementers. They have been absolutely fantastic, Your Excellency. Finally, I'd like to thank the consultant. Tina has been almost single-handedly in charge of this project, SBI and TMA. Thank you so much for that. I'd like to thank people at the office. I'd like to thank everybody, but most certainly, I'd like to end by thanking you, Your Excellency, because you know that every single time you have been my support in making sure that we bring this to the table, and we really do very well. Thank you so much for entrusting me with this huge responsibility, and I'd like to personally thank you for making this possible. I would like to end with a quote from you, and that quote is, "You must create wealth for yourselves and your households. Stop working for Echida Chonka." Thank you so much, Your Excellency.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Managing Director of the National Social Security Fund, Mr. Richard Yarogaba. Let's give him a big round of applause. Your Excellency, it's now my great honor to call upon the Chairman of the Board, Dr. Peter Kimbona. Round of applause, Jim.
Your Excellency, they have already taken us through the technical details. I'm a chairman of the board, and my work is generally to, first of all, thank you for coming and sparing your valuable time to be here to officially launch this wonderful project that proves only one thing, that public sector organizations can actually work with the same level of efficiency and effectiveness like private sector. So this is one good example of a public institution that is delivering best results and best outcomes for this country. Mr. President, I would like also to thank the ministers present here, the Minister for Finance, Honorable Matia Kasaija, and also the Minister of State, Colonel Retired Charles Ngola, for being present. And I want to thank also the captains of business and industry who are present here, and the members of the media, but more importantly, my colleagues with whom we provide oversight, insight, and foresight for this project and many other projects of the fund. I would like them to stand so that I can introduce them to you, the people who are supervising the management that has delivered this. I would like to start. I think it should be one by one so that the president will be able to identify you. Right now you are in a group and I can't do that well. So let me start with Patrick Ochailap, the Deputy Secretary of Treasury, is a member of the board. Dr. Silva Mugisha, this is a Chief Executive of National Water, he's on the board. We have Mr. Agre Chibenge, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Labor, Gender and Social Development. We've got Honorable Samuel Yomoki, is representing the workers on the board, and we have got Penina Tekamwesiga, who is also representing the board. Anne Mulindwa is the Chief Executive of Finance Trust. We've got also Mr. Hassan Modiba from the workers' side, and we've got also Anne Birungi, who is also representing the workers. Mr. President, we have also Deputy Managing Director, Patrick Ayota. Can you please stand up for recognition? And also the Corporation Secretary, where is she? Yes, she's called Agnes Tibeta. Your Excellency, our lessons from this project, I've mentioned lesson 1, that we have learned only one thing, that with your leadership, with your phenomenal stewardship of this country, it's very possible to get organizations to perform and deliver. Kiira Motors yesterday just delivered that on the road and told us that actually Uganda can manufacture and deliver buses and also vehicles that we can use on our road. Self-sufficiency. Your Excellency, lesson number 2 is that the best thing that for this future is the talent, building the confidence that employees of government need to be able to perform. NSSF is one institution ranked along the very best in East Africa in terms of talent, creativity, innovation, and sheer force of imagination from the fund. Your Excellency, we've also learned one thing, and that is to be resourceful and to be ingenious as much as we can. All the adversities that we are confronting in development of these projects, we are confronting them through negotiation. We are confronting them through constructive dialogue. We are allowing each other to listen and also to be able to respect each other and solve these issues the best way we can. The challenges, the adversities are not going to stop. For as long as NSSF is doing what it's doing, they are not going to stop. But we can only assure you, Your Excellency, that we shall do our best to solve all these challenges. Your Excellency, we are developing a very interesting strategy that while you've seen top of the range housing units here, we would want to scale these units right to the lowest level to deliver what the MD, Richard Byarugaba, has mentioned, be able to deliver the housing units to thousands of Ugandans in categories they can afford. The issue is going to be availability, is going to be affordability and quality. That's what we plan to do the best way we can. With your leadership and stewardship, I have no doubt that we will be able to achieve that. It's now my pleasure, Your Excellency, to invite the Minister for Labor and Social Services to give you a brief, and then we shall have the Minister for Finance inviting you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Your Excellency, the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Honorable Matia Kasaija, the Chairperson of the Board of Directors, Mr. Peter Kimbowa, members of NSSF Board, the Managing Director, NSSF, Mr. Richard Byarugaba, the media fraternity, ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellency, I welcome you to launch of this fund's latest real estate project, the Solana Lifestyle and Residence, formerly called the Boa Housing Estate Project. Thank you very much for joining us in this afternoon for this launch. Your Excellency, it's now slightly over 9 months since you signed into law the NSSF Amendment Act 2022 that reverted oversight of the funds management to the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development. The NSSF Act, as amended, provides for mandatory contributions by all workers, regardless of the size of the enterprise or number of employees. The law also provides for voluntary contributions to the fund. Therefore, working with our colleagues at the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, we are focusing our efforts on the expansion of the coverage from the current 2.5 million to about 7 million workers and increasing benefits to members. Your Excellency, the chairperson and managing director have already directed their efforts on the fund's investment strategy that focuses on unlocking the value held in real strategy, that focuses on unlocking the value held in real estate projects, the Solana project being one of these projects. Your Excellency, the Solana Lifestyle and Residences project is coming onto the market, especially at a time when more and more Ugandans require decent and planned housing, including those in the diaspora. I am also glad to report to you that the fund's current and upcoming projects, namely Solana, Temangalo, and Chanja, all satisfy demand in the high, middle, and low-income brackets. In other words, Your Excellency, the fund is providing a solution that meets needs of Ugandans across all walks of life. Your Excellency, we have ensured that projects such as this one here we're seeing, benefit not just the contractors, but also the neighboring communities and indigenous Ugandan business persons. I am therefore glad to note that majority of the materials were sourced locally and majority of the labor force, unskilled, semi-skilled, and skilled, has been provided by Ugandans, Your Excellency. Most importantly, the members of NSSF will be the main beneficiaries of this project in terms of interest, income that will be credited to their accounts from the sale of these housing units. Lastly, Your Excellency, at your next available opportunity, I request to meet you with the technical team from the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, and also from NSSF, to discuss some issues which should help in expanding the funds from generally the community of Uganda. I thank you. I now invite the Minister of Finance to come and address you.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda, my fellow Minister, Chairman, Board, and members, Managing Director, and your entire staff, members of the Board, media, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I am going to be very brief because I know the President is pressured by other responsibilities. The first thing is, I want to thank the National Security Fund, who has grown over the years as one of the exemplary public institutions. Thank you, congratulations. As you've heard, the fund constitutes about 9% of Uganda's gross domestic product, as Richard showed us. And the total assets managed are now 17 trillion. In terms of mobilization for long-term domestic savings, the fund collects over 1.6 trillion Uganda shillings every year. Your Excellency, the MD talked about challenges. You know how NRM, Your Excellency, we solved challenges. We have solved much more intricate and difficult challenges. The challenges, Richard, you have mentioned, we shall also have a solution for them. All I'm asking you, keep us in touch. So if you had talked to me, if we had had a meeting, and you asked me these challenges, I would give you answers. So I am inviting you next week, you come, let's have a meeting together with you and my staff. We work out this solution to these challenges so that the institution can get stronger and stronger. With those few words, Your Excellency, now it's my pleasure to ask you to address this meeting and give us words of wisdom. Thank you.
The Honorable Ministers, the Chairman of the Board and board members, the Managing Director and the management, and invited guests. Unfortunately, you don't know Nyankore. Otherwise, I would have given you a Nyankore proverb. The proverb says, obukorwa tuwita bukombera. Obukorwa are small, very small animals. I think they are called mongoose or something like that. They are very small animals, but when they combine, they can kill a big snake, especially the cobra. Ndozo mu Luganda bakiyita okwekobaana. Kwekobaana, okukombera. To combine in order to solve a problem. Now you can hear that the collections from the workers and the government and the employers are now totaling 17 trillion. I think when we started it was like 1 trillion or something like that. 1.2. So, and you can see what that okwekovana, that combining, small, producing something big. That's quite a bit of money. That's one point I wanted to point out so that people know this. Even in the UPDF, we have now got a SACCO known as Wazalendo. It has got quite a bit of money. Again, because of Okwekovana, because of combining. Small people combining, they create a big force. So that message of collective savings is very, very important for circles, for anybody, teachers, anybody, villagers, they can save and do big things. That's how capitalism grew. Capitalism, they have what they call, they float shares. And shares are small amounts of money which individuals buy or groups buy. And because of that, you find an effort which doesn't have money, an innovation which doesn't have money, as long as it can attract shareholders, it collects a lot of money. So that message should be clear to the Ugandans. They should learn from this one. Now you can see Byarugaba is telling us what this very good work here is only 10% of what will be done. So, in other words, you are going to have a new city here, a new town, built by NSSF. In this former Mitchell Courts coffee plantation, there used to be coffee plantations here, owned by Mitchell Courts in the 1960s. So that's point number one. Point number two, Biargawa is a good manager, but not a strategist. So you should ask strategists like myself. You see, what the NRM is struggling with is to get the whole society into the money economy. Because when we started, by 1969, I saw the census. The households which were in the money economy were only 4%. 96% of the homesteads were in the Okora Echida Kyonka. What we call in Luo, teach, meich, keken. Now the Luo speakers must be surprised at how I speak Luo. So now, when we came in, we talked about it, but things didn't move. And by 2013, 68% of the homesteads were still in what they call the non-monetary GDP, working only for the stomach. That is how I involved the army from 2013, and now that figure has gone down to 39%. For the first time, 61% of the people, of the homesteads, are in the money economy. But we are determined to win over even the remaining 39%. Now, once the base of the society goes into the money economy, that's the strategic success we need. Now, these other efforts Biargawa is worried about, those are tactical, they are not strategic, those are small things. Once the base is mobilized, then what you remain with is Okulembeka. How do I Kulembeka? Jolopi in Luo. Okutangiriza. If there is flow of money in the whole society, then the tactics of how to Kulembeka are simpler. But you cannot Kulembeka from nothing. If there is no rain, where do you Kulembeka? So therefore, we are moving very well. For me, I'm very happy. When you meet Mr. Kaseja, find out housing finance. Housing finance bank? What happened to that bank? I had a rumor there was a bank like that. The MD is here. Oh, Wanangi, get to love you. Ate banke obaweri. Kati bino bye mugamba, why can't they not? The young man of housing finance, come and tell us why you have maliciously refused to develop mortgages, because that's what you are supposed to be doing.
Good afternoon, Your Excellency.
Good afternoon. Yeah.
Your Excellency, Housing Finance is a very strong bank. It is 54 years old. It controls over 65% of the market. We are leaders in the mortgage space. And
65% of litro is litro.
But with every effort, Your Excellency, to make it big, and there's a huge strategy that with partnerships of government.
But Biarga was crying for mortgage. Where are the mortgages?
Yes, that's true. And Your Excellency, the issues that Mr. Yargava has mentioned here are the issues that we are handling in terms of affordability, reaching out to the loan market, aspects of enabling more Ugandans gain into that space. And it's what we are doing, Your Excellency, and we have every effort that...
But anyway, the Minister of Finance is there. He has heard.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Okay, thank you. We told a Tima. You don't have a Tima. You don't have Tony Tima.
No, Your Excellency. Tini Tima, Your Excellency.
I thought the boy is malicious. I didn't want people to... I therefore think we are moving well. Once we have mobilized all the homesteads, all the 9 million homesteads to be involved in commercial agriculture or in manufacturing, either as owners or as employees, in artisanship. Some are already in services like these borders and hospitality industry and entertainment industry, and then the ICT sector. Then you meet the Minister of Finance. Those tactical issues are easy to solve. Because, for instance, the one of VAT on owner-occupied buildings, that can be dealt with. I don't see why it should be a problem, because if somebody is not going to rent the building, you can study all that. Why not encourage, if he's not going to rent, where will he get the... Because VAT, you are just a collector. You are supposed to get it from the buyer. You are supposed to pass it on, value-added tax. But if the other man is not going to earn from the building, so you can analyze this. It's not all that difficult. Even the fraudsters, these who come and tell lies and so on, we can amend laws and ensure that the project goes on. Even if somebody is claiming, you can continue claiming while the project is going on, instead of because this issue of the bank, what they call it what? Injunction. Injunction, stop. That's very disruptive. If you have got a case, let me continue with my project. If you win in the future, I can compensate you when the project is already finished. But this, the injunctions which stop, I think are, we can study all that. You write up all that, what you said. Don't take slides to the minister, because he will not have time to watch them. So write a memorandum so that we have all this. But I'm very happy. I want to thank everybody. I want to salute the late Chayonka for the good initiative him and the management and the board did. I want to congratulate NSSF for buying this land of Lubowa. This was a big investment. It is in a very good area. So we shall handle all these other little things you are talking about. Thank you. I wish you good luck.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Ladies and gentlemen, can we kindly be upstanding for the East African anthem and the national anthem?
I can have the honor of having a group photograph with the board. The board members come here.
Ladies and gentlemen, you may take your seats.